Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Crusader's Mantle. All right, let's get into this. Sam, what does the spell do?
Okay, Crusader's Mantle. We got a paladin only, so this is a 9th level, 3rd level spell, meaning you have to be 9th level to get it. It's 3rd level paladin spell. Glass concentration, cast range of self. You basically buff everyone you want to buff within 30 feet of you to do a bonus D4 radiant damage on hit with weapon attacks only. So if you got a bunch of people make weapon attacks, they all do a bonus D4 radiant damage.
Now, paladin being a half caster, they get this at 9th level. This doesn't seem amazing. What do you think?
I think initial impressions when you look at this, and at most tables when you look at this is going to seem horrendous, basically unuseful. Because a lot of the time it's going to be a 3rd level spell slot for Divine Favor. If you don't have, if you are the paladin in the group and you have a rogue buddy that doesn't want to be anywhere near you because they want to be hiding the back somewhere shooting people for, their sneak attack damage. Even if you have like a ranger in the party that's very far away from you, you only getting one person to get value out of this, it makes it awful. However, if you have a monk, barbarian, and fighter in the squad with you, this spell is insane. And most tables aren't going to be that composition exactly. Most tables aren't going to be specifically working with a group that's like just deathballing, running around and murdering people with series of attack rolls. But if you are in that party, the spell is ludicrous.
Well, yeah, it is everybody within range kind of spell. It's not limited to the amount of people you can cast it on, correct?
Hypothetically, cram as many peasants as you can within 5 feet of you and all their pitchforks do a bonus D4 radiant damage.
Or combine it with animal shapes.
Yeah, that's silly. A D4 extra damage on all the animal shape things. If we're at that tier of play, why not? You could also just like have, if you've got a wizard with conjure minor elementals or a druid with conjure animals, and you're just like, yeah, all those animals are doing D4 radiant damage on hit. I mean, we're breaking already broken spells, so we're not like treading particularly useful ground here. We're talking about how do we make the most busted spells in the game better.
I think it is useful ground in that we're taking something that seems kind of crappy and breaking the game with it. That's I think that's useful.
I mean, it's not what's breaking the game. What's breaking the game is the billion of creatures you're summoning. But do give
however,
D4 damage
that many creatures with plus D4 radiant damage is, I mean, depending on the number of creatures, that's huge.
Yes,
potentially.
Again, so like I think that this spell, I think in a lot of tables the spell is going to do it. The spells where you aren't doing either a full martial party or a mostly martial party, where this spell is going to feel really awful to use. Even if you are doing the summoning things, like what's making the game so warped there isn't necessarily giving them all an extra D4. Normally, the 30 D8 plus 30 is enough. The animals are conjuring, making it 30 D8 plus 30 D4. I mean, that's a lot more damage. Is it so much more damage that it matters? Is a question I don't know the answer to.
50% more.
Almost, yeah. But like, again, what's breaking the game definitely is the 30 D8 damage plus 30, and the extra D4 is just kind of gravy to me.
Oh, certainly. I'm just trying to think. There's not no case in which this spell can be useful.
Oh, I didn't even mean to imply that was the case.
I didn't say you're implying it. I'm just I'm kind of like coming out before you say that.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Works for me. You're right. This spell...
I've done enough spell reviews with you.
True. This is Crusader's Mantle is going to be great if you have 2 other members of your party, I think, that are getting value out of this. I think if you can get like 5d4 around ish on Crusader's Mantle, you're really happy with it, because that's just a free 5d4 damage that hypothetically you're getting around. It being concentration means it doesn't last that long, but if you're getting like 15d4, 20d4 damage out of this, you're really happy. And that's not a really large ask for like a monk plus a fighter, a monk plus even like a multi 2-weapon fighting ranger can get that pretty easily. And on top of that, with your attacks as well. Right? If you are doing the conjuration magic thing, you will definitely be getting more than 5d4 damage out of this. Even if you have just 8 methods running around you, all the steam methods doing 3d4 damage instead of 2d4 damage is hilarious. And while most of them are going to be missing anyway, you're probably going to be getting enough extra dice out of it that you're like, yeah, this is worth the cast here. But again, this is also going to be a spell where like you'll be in a party where you're playing with a lone rogue thing. You want to attack a turn that does just a shitload of damage, and you have a wizard in your backline that doesn't want to do the conjuration magic thing because it's a nightmare to track. Or your DM is just like, let's not do conjuration this time around, friends. It's really busted. We know it's really busted. Let's do other cool things. Then you might be in situations where the spell has literally no use, where you're just better off casting Divine Favor. Those kind of Feast of Famine spells I don't hate. I don't hate that this spell has very clear moments where it's like, oh yeah, this is the table where this is amazing. At the same time, I feel like this is a spell I would love to see at lower levels, to be perfectly honest. Then you can kind of build towards it as a group. You can kind of make informed decisions about your future of your characters, knowing that, well, our paladin's doing a build where he wants everyone to be around them. And that isn't really something that they get incentives until you get like the AoE buffs that they get at like 7th level. And before then, you're just like, yeah, I just do Divine Smite, and that's all my character is. I don't know. I have a lot of pain points about the paladin class when it comes to stuff like this.
All right. Yeah. All right, you've got that opinion. However much you've said already, I keep coming back to this is a fantastic supplement spell to the conjuring magic.
Yes.
And that's really all I can see it being worth it for. And when it is worth it for that, it's worth so much, I would imagine.
I think you are. So I agree that it is worth a lot. I don't know if it's worth as much as you're giving it like the weight, because again, what's really breaking the game in half isn't necessarily this spell is doing 30d4 damage. This spell is doing 30d4 damage.
I get that the conjuring magic is the one that's pulling the weight.
Yeah.
But this spell is so much icing on that cake.
Yeah.
That this
is
the only reason I can see it being worth casting. And in this case, it's so worth casting because there's so much icing.
But you have had cakes with too much icing, haven't you, Bob?
Yeah.
They do exist. And there is a point of overkill. There's a point where you have enough damage. And this spell definitely, like, just conjure animals, just conjure minor elementals, isn't necessarily enough damage. Normally what really makes the spell super busted is the actions they're giving you to do a bunch of other things. Adding on a bunch more damage to them. So for like, let's say you have an upcast conjure minor elementals, you get 16 methods, you're getting an extra 16d4 radiant damage for a 3rd level paladin spell, as long as they can all stick around you. There are a bunch of like big old asterisks and like make sure all these things are happening in conjunction. But if we're in like the best case scenario, getting an extra 16d4 radiant damage around is really good. Is it so good that it's like do you need that much extra damage whenever you're doing the 16d4 method things? And are those methods at their best when they're making attack rolls? Because you could also be using their steam breath. You could also be having the animals lift people 300 feet in the air and dropping them, right? Like the reason conjure animals tends to be really busted is because giant owls exist within the CR range, and they can just grab whatever medium or smaller creatures are around them, fly as fast up as they possibly can, and then let go. And let the fall damage do the rest, right? So what makes a lot of these spells particularly broken, while the attack rolls that's happening are great, they aren't necessarily the best part of the spell, although they are a good part of the spell for sure. This supplements not the best part of the spell. So this is something that I think is often going to feel like overkill, where if you had enough damage in the attack rolls off conjure elemental or conjure animals, you probably didn't really need Crusader's Mantle. If you had almost enough, it probably still didn't make enough of an impact to make it like the most coolest thing that happened. But you're right, it is a nice little icing to have. You're right, it is something that will give you a little bit.
What about several medium-sized or medium CR monsters versus one big bad?
Yeah. Again, I think that's where you're most likely to find the realistic use here. And that's going to be, your party members will often be those characters, actually. Your party members are going to be the 3 attack around, 4 attack around buddies that will, against one large thing, do a shitload more damage with this, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you have a squad of people that are making 2 or 3 attacks around, this spell can be great. You are one of those people, right? You can even play a 2-heaven fighter paladin, which is not a common build, but I think is a neat one. Specifically because a lot of paladin spells ask you to use your bonus action to do weird stuff like the extra smites, but most of those are bad anyway. So being able to offhand attack to get more options to divine smite more often can give you these really Nova-y, I do 200 billion D damage in one round. And this spell supplements that really well, right? If you're going to have like, again, if you're hitting 5 attacks around within the party with this, you're really happy. 5d4 extra damage around for Crusader's Mantle is going to do enough damage to a single target that you're happy to just shred it down on top of all the regular weapon damage happening. It costs your action. That's kind of crappy. It causing being concentration means it's likely to go down early. If you can get 3 rounds up, and you're a paladin with a high AC, high constitution most of the time, so that's not unreasonable. There's a fair chance that you'd be able to get this to stay for a long enough time for you to make attack rolls with it as well. I don't know. There are a lot of interesting mechanics to the spell that make it hard to necessarily say, oh, this will always be good at here, and this will always be bad here. That's not true. You can say in like tables where you're playing with 3 full casters, this will, without summoning magic, this will always be bad. But in other cases, it's like, yeah, I think I'm getting enough to justify this. This is kind of good enough here. This is definitely better than a smite damage wise, so I probably should be using it, right? Like those are the situations I think you're getting into with Crusader's Mantle.
All right. Is there any other aspect? I know we've gone down a rabbit hole here, but is there any other aspect of the spell you'd like to discuss? Or no? All right.
This is about as simple as spell you get. Attacks do an extra damage when they're close to you. Things you being close to don't want to make attack rolls, or what's going to make this work. Things not doing that aren't. So the summoning magic is definitely a cool element of it, but like for the most tables that are going to be using this, you're going to want to have, like I said, a couple of classes that care about it. Beyond that, it's divine favor. Like it is an extra damage. You needed to do a lot of damage for it to be worth the spell slot. It's a half caster spell, so it doesn't happen for a while, but it's at least like it supplements what they want to be doing anyway, so it doesn't feel super, super bad.
Okay, do you have a Sam score?
Yeah, I think this is a comfortable 3 out of 5. There's definitely going to be times where this is really good, but that's going to really depend on the party. There are going to be a lot of tables this is completely unusable. The times where this is broken, it's not the reason things are going like being super duper broken for most of the time, unless you like specifically find the brigade of peasants or a giant swarm of gnats or whatever that for some reason have enough sentience to all get an extra d4 radiant damage on hit. But like the buster things with this are going to be from other stuff. The best case scenario is going to be pretty good. It's never going to be game warping or anything. And then there'll be the times where you literally can't cast the spell because it does nothing.
I am going to bump it up to a 4 out of 5 for myself because specifically of the conjuring magic. I think that's when it's used best. I think that's the way to do it. That's the only reason you want this spell, and when you use it, this is going to be why. I would go as far as a 5 out of 5, but I've had a little bit to drink tonight, and I defer to your wisdom.
YouTube audience, I want you to comment when you notice, like there was the visible time where you noticed Bob was definitely drunk. I just want to know. What time? No. Give me the timestamp of when you noticed that Bob was definitely intoxicated for this recording.
It was only when I mentioned it. Otherwise, yeah, sure. I'm a human chameleon.
Yeah, exactly the same. No differences whatsoever to any of our other recordings.
This was, what was this?
Crusader's Mantle.
Crusader's Mantle.
Yeah, a decent paladin spell for once.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Sam, for your wisdom and insight. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.